Did Tom ever tell you about my painting?
No.
Look at this.
Ah, it's beautiful.
I like this one. One dog goes one way and the other dog goes the other way.
One is going east and the other one is going west. So what?
And this guy's saying, what do you want from me?
G'day everybody, my name is Jack Squarepeg, and today we will be reviewing the Call of Cthulhu adventure, Goodfellas. Written by Christian Grundle, this adventure is a loving spin-off of the Martin Scorsese movie Goodfellas. If you like the sound of that, you can watch the actual play of the adventure that we recorded here. For those unfamiliar with the material, Goodfellas, just like its movie counterpart, is about gangsters. As such, your players should be prepared to play scumbag criminals, who at the same time have codes of honor and loyalty, until they're faced with a problem too big for such scruples, of course. Goodfellas is a tight, well-paced adventure that can run anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on how itchy the trigger fingers of your players are. One particular thing to note about this adventure is that I can't really see a way that you could fit this into your campaign. This one-shot is very intrinsically about the pre-generated characters, of which there are 4. Any attempts to fit this into your campaign would require so much modification that I think you would lose a big chunk of the juice that this adventure has. But as a one-shot with the pre-generated characters provided, we had an absolute blast. But if you don't want to know whether Jimmy 2 times gets the papers,
I'm gonna go get the papers,
be warned, spoilers beyond this point. Goodfellas is remarkable in its simplicity. The setup? 4 gangsters: Sally, Tony, Tukey, and Mikey. 1 car, and a hell of a lot of trouble. The boss of the fictional family that these gangsters belong to wants Sally P dead because he's been associating too closely with a drug trade that he has been told is too risky to associate with. Sally P knows that something might be up, and so rather than him being a target, he hopes to remove the drug dealer, whose name is Alejandro. He does this with the help of Tony the Nose. Unfortunately for Sally, the hit has already been approved. Tukey is supposed to take Sally P out, regardless of whether he got rid of the drug dealer Alejandro or not. Mikey, an associate under Tukey's wing, is going to get his stripes tonight by taking care of Sally P. There are a few problems with this plan to take Sally P out. 1, Sally doesn't want to die. 2, Tony has been brought along for the ride to bury the drug dealer's body as a means of protection in case Tukey and Mikey try to kill him, which they absolutely want to do. 3, the roads are very snowy and slippery, and Sally P is driving the car. If they tried to take Sally out while he's driving, regardless of Tony's intervention, they could be in a very serious road accident. And 3, Mikey doesn't exist.
What a twist!
Yes, that's right. Mikey is an undercover cop by the name of Vincent DeMarco, and he's been trailing information back to the FBI for the past 4 years. He's also not stupid. He knows that Tukey likes him and wants to bring him into the family, and to earn his stripes, he knows he's likely going to be instructed to murder Sally P, which he can't really do, being a cop and all. On top of all that, Tony is not who he seems either. He's an FBI informant, a rat, and has been for the past 4 years.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Tony is a gay man in a culture that absolutely will not accept him for it. And more importantly, he's tired. He doesn't want to be in this life anymore, and he's looking for a way out. He's also meant to be checking in with his informant today, instead of being sucked into Sally P's problems on an upstate drive to New York to be potentially murdered alongside him. When this drive begins to happen, Tony had no idea that Sally P was bringing him in on this driving Mexican standoff. But here we are. All the while, the man that Tony and Sally P murdered lies in the trunk, furious and waiting to strike. Alejandro was a scribe and librarian who learned the ability to swap bodies along with other nefarious deeds. After hundreds of years of body swapping and leaving the people that he left behind for dead, he eventually left Spain during its Civil War period and took up residence in Queens. One thing Alejandro was quite good at was making a drug that people would want to buy, and he found success in New York. This isn't the first time in his criminal life that someone has tried to betray him, but he was caught off guard with Tony and Sally P. This annoys him, and he plans to get revenge if he can. But first things first, He needs another body, and then he needs to figure out how he's going to go about leaving New York. One thing he knows for sure is that he can't pull this off with the people knowing each other as well as they do. They will know that something is up if he just tries to swap immediately. So he needs them to turn on each other. Not to mention, 50% of the people in the car are people that he would very much like to return the favor for his murder. His mind reaches out, touching the minds of everyone inside the car and seeing what he can use to make them turn on each other. As may well be obvious, this is largely a character-driven adventure, and players should be encouraged to take the initiative wherever possible. After all, their characters want to survive this adventure, and that requires thinking on your feet. Tony will be looking for a way to speak subtly to his FBI informant, and ideally get away without bloodshed, but he will kill everyone if he has to. Sally knows that Tukey and Mikey plan to kill him. He will want to get some sort of plan through to Tony so that they can get the drop on Mikey and Tukey. Tukey will be aware that Sally has brought Tony into this as a bid for protection. He will be looking for a chance to kill Sally alone, separate from Tony, if at all possible. Mikey, aka Vincent, will be looking for any opportunity to disrupt this trip before they get to their destination. His case depends on Sally P getting out of this alive. And all the while, Alejandro will be tempting them to kill each other, ideally leaving one man standing, so that he can possess their body, with or without their permission to do so. When the adventure starts, ensure that the player characters are already sat inside the car with this following seat layout. Sally P in the driver's seat, Tony in the front passenger seat, Tukey directly behind Sally, and Mikey directly behind Tony. The players are very much in control of this adventure, and they can start firing upon each other at any time, but make sure that they know that Sally P is driving on increasingly more dangerous, slick, snowy roads, and that opening fire on him may get them all killed. Each team is on either side of the car, so they can exchange furtive glances with each other as they silently will the other person to act. Once that's been established, and when you're ready, it's time for your first flashback. Sally P goes back to his childhood, playing baseball in front of his father, his first home run. It's then that he has a realization. What does your dad look like?
I think my dad was quite a strong, tall man, but he had an injury from the Second World War fighting at Monte Cassino, and he had a bit of a limp on him. He was quite a quiet, gentle man for all that he was, tall and imposing, and worked hard but was never really able to sort of get ahead.
Do you remember him having a face?
I believe I remember him having a face, yes, a white sort of semi-long beard.
Yeah, there's no face in this memory.
Interesting.
It's your dad's body, but the face is an empty void with barely perceptible motes of light swirling in it. And you hear a voice. Kill them, and you can be free of this. I would like you to make a sanity check, please. After you get Sally's player to make a sanity check, wait for the right moment in the story for the next encounter, which is Mikey hearing thumping from inside the trunk of the car. By the way, Americans, don't say I don't do anything for you, because Australians, we call it the boot, which is kind of stupid, but it's called the boot. But I'm saying trunk, because I love you. Okay? This thumping should get louder and louder and louder, so loud that you can tell the player character this might be a situation where the murdered guy is not murdered, is still alive, and is getting out of the boot as we speak. The car is snowy in the back, and there's no way to determine whether someone is actually getting out of the car, and you need to stop. Don't use those words, but essentially give them the inspiration to go, hang on, stop, we need to check on this right now. I want to make one thing clear. Now that the car has stopped, all bets are off from here on out, and if the players decide that now, whatever now is the time to start shooting each other, That is the adventure, and you, as the game master, should absolutely let them. Your responsibility is to pay attention to where they have decided to let loose with their violence. If they are making a lot of noise, they may well call the cops, which isn't good for anybody. With that in mind, please assume that once this car has stopped in the way that I've just described, the addendum is, unless the player characters start killing each other. From there, you're on your own. Pay attention, make sure that you consider the environment, make sure that you're being fair, and let them kill each other. That is the entire point. After that, you let Alejandro strike, and you see what happens. So, with that in mind, timeline encounters, unless they start killing each other. If the players choose to stop and open up the boot, they will find the corpse of Alejandro looking very corpse-like. But just for a second, did it just smile at you? Putnam County. Here, Alejandro reaches out to Sally again, making him remember precious family memories. Making him remember, in particular, his youngest daughter, who was there, in front of him, about to be hit by his car. As Sally swerves to avoid, the gangsters will see that Sally, regardless of the drive check success, has clipped a deer and has killed it and is sobbing into its fur. Sally will believe for a time that the deer is still his daughter, who looks up at him and says,
"Kill them all and come back to me, Daddy."
Duchess County. The snow is picking up now, and the crew are absolutely in a snowstorm. Tony has a flashback, remembering his first kill with Sally supervising. I can personally recommend the modification of getting another player to play the victim that Tony has to kill in this flashback. But remember, this is a flashback, so regardless of the player character's intervention, hell, they might even get away depending on how you rule the combat. He is stuck in his own grave, and he may well get away. But remind Tony that whatever this is, however it results in the flashback, if he is anything other than murdered in his own grave, then it is a fantasy on Tony's part, and Tony knows what happened. As he swims back from this fateful, painful memory, Alejandro will whisper in his ear, "You can be free, but you have to kill the others." The gas station. This is where my story ended, and you'll have to watch what happened, but it was pretty hectic. But provided that doesn't happen for you, there is a payphone at this gas station, which I would definitely recommend flagging, because it's one of the few ways that Tony the Nose can reach out to his FBI informant. It's also a place where, if they haven't killed each other once again, they can hole up in this gas station until the weather improves, if they so choose. However, I would actually recommend to only let them come to that conclusion themselves, because the bad weather is definitely part of this scenario. And while it was recommended by the adventure that that is something that they could do, I would only let them do that if they bring it up themselves. Don't bring it up to them, because after all, at any time, the car could just careen off the road, and that's half the drama. So hang on to that. Columbia County. The characters are in a full-blown storm at this point, and if Sally wants to do anything other than keep two hands on the wheel and barely see through the windscreen wipers that are blowing the snow away, then he will need to make a drive check. The difficulty is up to you, but he needs to be 100% focused on the road, otherwise checks are going to be required. Meanwhile, it's Tuki's turn to get tempted by Alejandro. He is treated to a vision where they are at the grave that they are heading for to bury Alejandro, and as they throw the body in, he whips out his gun and shoots Sally P and Tony in the back of the head, and as Mikey turns in shock, he shoots him in the head too. As the corpses pile down into the ground, Tuki goes down into there too and fishes Alejandro out from the fray, and as he holds the body, Alejandro's corpse-like eyes will snap open. He promises, "I can give you anything you wish. Just kill them." The Pixie Motel. if your player characters are still alive, Jesus, they're being cautious. But let's roll with it. Let's imagine that this is the case. Alejandro knows that this is his last chance before his body is buried in the earth. So he's going to pull out all the stops. As the keeper, you have carte blanche to throw whatever visions and hallucinations that you want from Alejandro to get the player characters to take the hand that Alejandro is extending to them, including, but not limited to, ghosts of men they've killed and ghosts of who they could have become. Always with the offer, I can help you, but you need to kill everyone else. He wants them to think that he can help them, and he probably can, but he likely won't, because after all, they killed him. These visions can also get more personal. Maybe you can appeal to Tony and the fact that he's gay and that he doesn't want to be part of this life anymore. Maybe he can play on that desperation. Sally P has his kids. Tukey really, really likes Mikey. Mikey doesn't want to kill these people, but maybe he's being forced. Maybe he's thinking that he's going to get attacked by them if he doesn't, that this is actually a grave for him. And the hallucinations, depending on their level of horror, you can decide for yourself, may incur a more brutal sanity cost, which means that there could be a chance for a bout of madness where you are piloting them and you can decide now is the time for them to attack like crazy on everybody else. The final spot that the player characters can go to is the crawl space underneath the Pixie Motel. This is where the gangsters bury all their bodies, and there are already some underneath the motel, rotting away. This is where Alejandro can pull out all the stops. Whatever that you think he needs to do, he can't be buried in here. He needs these people taken out, and he needs it done now. And there you have it. That is the adventure. The player characters will be attacking each other at some point. The question is when and in what capacity. One modification I made to increase the horror and the personability of the adventure is that I made it so that it was more than just a simple mind transfer, i.e. if Sally P agrees to transfer with Alejandro, technically speaking, Sally P then ends up in the dead body of Alejandro, and Alejandro ends up in Sally P's body. I thought it would be more interesting if they were, for lack of a better word, co-piloting until he eventually corrupts them, particularly if the person that kills the rest is Sally or Tony, because remember, they killed Alejandro, so he might want them to witness that he makes their family and their loved ones suffer. Call me sadistic, but I think that's fun in its own right.
I think I need to take a shower.
Overall, Deadfellas' best feature by far is its layout and its pacing. I absolutely understood everything that the adventure was asking me to do, and while it had flavorful text, it got out of the way as quickly as possible so that I could feel encouraged to add layers on top, which to me is the best example of Game Master adventures, where you are inspired to make things, you know what the adventure thinks, and you know what the adventure requires you to do, but then you can add your own flavor of it, just like a good recipe. It isn't overly wordy, but it's incredibly evocative, and the timelines are a great resource, especially if the player characters are asking about the history of what's been happening in their relationships or in their community, and you should be able to at least fudge an answer relatively well with the information that you have there in those timelines. There's even a glossary of common terms like La Cosa Nostra and This Thing of Ours, which I absolutely recommend that you give to the players so that they can fit it into their own vernacular and they can have a great time kind of role-playing out these classic characters that you see up on the big screen. I highly recommend you check Deadfellas out. At the time of writing, the adventure is $4.69, which for what you're getting is an absolute steal. And that's my review.
And now it's all over.